Hello and welcome to another episode of Decentralounge, brought to you by GlobalStake, which is your institutional, truly decentralized, self-owned and managed SOC 2 Type 2 compliant bare metal staking service provider. And today, we're thrilled to have Steve Horvath on, who's the Vice President of Sales at Fordefi with us. So Fordefi, for those of you that are not aware, is pioneering the integration of advanced cryptographic security into decentralized finance. So essentially providing institutions with a self-custodial MPC wallet that enhances safety and efficiency in managing their digital assets. Under Steve's leadership so far, Fordefi has been at the forefront of developing innovative solutions that meet the complex needs of institutional clients that are navigating this new DeFi space. So join us today as we explore some cutting-edge technology behind Fordefi and discuss Steve's extensive background. Steve, excited to have you on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Excited to be here. Excited to have the chat. So,
of course. So let's just start from the very beginning. Cue the audience in on like what got you interested in cryptocurrency, and then take us from that pivotal moment and what's led you all the way up to today at Fordefi.
Yeah, I know we've got just a certain amount of time, so I'll keep it truncated. But actually, the interest actually goes all the way back. So my background actually starts in traditional finance. So I started my career at the old Wachovia Bank, which is now part of Wells Fargo Advisors, as a financial advisor, and gotten into the wealth management space early part of my career, and really, dove into traditional finance, the equity side. Went from there to E-Trade and actually did executive services, so administering like Rule 144 and 10b5-1 plans for executives, more on the stock plan administration side. So I got to see a lot of kind of the inner workings of traditional finance, the transfer agents, DTCC, and how stock flows from a lot of those middlemen. And I always thought at that time that it seemed pretty kind of clunky and just kind of didn't flow very well. But there was really no alternative, right? It was just kind of like over the years, pieces being put together to kind of help things move along, not necessarily in the most efficient way, but it got the job done, right? And so over the years, I was at E-Trade, then I went to Morgan Stanley, and that was around the time in 2008 when the great financial crisis hit. And actually, that was the first time I heard about Bitcoin. So I heard about Bitcoin in 2009 when it came out because it was on the news. And I remember sitting in the office when I was still at E-Trade, and I was like, oh, that's cute. That's kind of cool. Like, it's kind of this weird thing that, this computer money sounds awesome, And actually at the time, I was really starting to get into Tesla because Tesla was just starting to come out with their Roadster too, and I was like, oh, that's, so I was really into that. But I remember seeing that news piece, and I was like, huh, okay. Like, it just kind of stuck in the back of my mind. So at any rate, the great financial crisis hit, and I moved into fintech, and I started working for a fintech company doing bank aggregation data. So it was a company called Cash Edge, got bought by Fiserv, so I started working at Fiserv. And I ended up at a company called Yodlee, which was selling bank data APIs to fintechs and lending companies and things like that. This is about 2015. And then Coinbase was one of our customers. And so they're like, hey, you guys should come out to our mixer. We're having a mixer up in the Bay Area. You guys should come. I'm like, dude, it sounds awesome. Like, who are you guys again? And then they're like, oh, yeah, we're like, you can buy and sell Bitcoin. And I'm like, oh, that's right. I remember that thing. I was like, people are still doing this? Like, it's still around? That's amazing, And I was like, what is this thing? Whatever. So they kind of told me, and I was like, all right, I'll check it out. So I went to the mixer and had a blast. And then I went home and I looked at Coinbase, and I was like, huh, this is kind of weird. And it was just, there's only 3 assets at the time. It was just Bitcoin, ETH, and Litecoin. And Bitcoin at the time was, I don't know, I think it was around like 1,600 or 1,700, right? And I was like, dude, that is way too expensive. Like, my only frame of reference was like Berkshire Hathaway was the most expensive stock I knew, which was like 2,000, 3,000 a share. I had no idea I could buy increments, right? So I'm like, dude, there's no way I can buy Bitcoin. Like, it's way too expensive for me. But the Litecoin and the ETH, that looks more doable for me. Like, ETH was like $20, Litecoin was like $2, so I bought some of that. And I forgot about it. And this was like, it's like early 2016. And then a colleague of mine was also kind of getting into it too. So we would talk about it here and there, just kind of, not really knowing what we were doing. And then when the price action in late 2016, 2017 started to really run, I was like, what is this thing? Why is this thing just running so hard? Like, what's the big deal about this stuff? And that really got me into like really studying the technology and the innovation behind it. I actually went out and got my first hot wallet, which was a Jax wallet at the time, and bought some more ETH, and then I put it into my own wallet, and I was like, dude, I can own my own assets, my own money. Like no one can tell me where I can send it. No one can tell me whether I can take it out or not. Like, and I can send it instantly anywhere, and it'll settle automatically, like, or instantaneously. I was like, this is amazing. Like, if I do that with my bank, it takes like 3 days for me to get the money anywhere I want. It takes forever. It's only business days. Weekends don't even count. And that can be a hassle, you know, and I've had some issues with banks, as we all have, just as a service. So that was really what caught my attention and what really drew me in. And I saw at that moment the potential for this technology and the innovation to really supplant a lot of those, a lot of the old infrastructure that we have, and a lot of the infrastructure that was just kind of cobbled together over the years that made it really inefficient, right? And so I really dove into that. I started running a Bitcoin node. I watched a bunch of like YouTube channels, and then I started getting into some of the, you know, the altcoins that were in there. And then I've gone through the whole spectrum. I've lost money. I lost my seed phrase on Jack's wallet. I didn't even know it was that important. I just put it in like a notepad thing, you know, and then I couldn't get it into my Jack's wallet. You know, I put it into a notepad and for some reason just lost it or whatever. So I lost all my ETH. And then I had to watch YouTube videos to figure out how to extract it again. I actually was able to do that, but then I lost my Bitcoin. So it was like a crash course in crypto, you know, and really trying to figure out my way around it. And I really took that as something that was unique to the industry. But I was actually really excited, not obviously not excited about losing money, but excited that I actually had the ability to control and own my own assets and my own money. And to be able to not only be able to do what I want with it, but also take on the risk of actually owning it outright, you know? And so that was actually really exciting to me. So from then on, I just kind of got deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. I got my own ledger. And so I wanted to start working in the industry. And so I'd been working in fintech by then for probably like 7 to 10 years. And fintech was great. Like it's a lot different than traditional finance. It kind of, provide a lot of innovation as far as some of the banking services that go to consumers. And I think it did a good job, but I think fintech in a lot of ways was really constrained by the old rails that banks and the financial institutions had put into place. And so they could only do so much, right? They can make the UI better. They can make the UI prettier. Maybe they could, get you your funds a little quicker, but then you're just using private funds at their own. You're still relying on the old infrastructure for the ACH of funds and things like that on the back end. So for me, it was like slapping lipstick on a pig, And so crypto was really a whole new way to be able to actually provide and transfer value instantly with a whole new set of rails. And that was really exciting for me. And I was, my buddy ended up going to BitGo in when was it? He went into like 2018 or 2019 from Yodlee. And I was like, dude, you got to find me a job over there. I need to get over there and start working in the space. But it was just so early, like, sales and BD was not really a thing yet, because it was more just devs just building on the infrastructure and on the rails. And then in 2021, he was working at a company called Curve, which was one of the first institutional MPC providers. And he's like, dude, I finally got a spot for you, come over. So I was able to get in. And that's when I started working in the industry. So it was quite a journey, but it was definitely an exciting one. One where it has definitely its ups and downs, but yeah, I've been in the space ever since, and I love it.
That is a wildly fascinating story. In fact, one of the best background stories I think we've heard so far on the podcast. I'm just really glad that you found your seed phrase, because when you said that, yeah, I could feel my own heart go into my throat. I'm like, oh my gosh, how many teeth did he lose? So I'm glad that it all worked out. Well, tell us more.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, just tell us more about Fordefi. Like, I mean, obviously you made this transition from being sort of just someone who was in fintech, really interested in what was being built out. And to your point, just sort of, that looking forward to that disintermediation and getting rid of this older system that is so inefficient. So tell us how you made the leap from Curve to Fordefi and what Fordefi is building, what it's all about, and your role with the company.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, to kind of pick up where I left off, once I started working at Curve, they ended up getting bought by PayPal. But one of the things I really enjoyed about that was that it really opened my eyes to how companies and entities were building new infrastructure on top of these rails in crypto to be able to give access to not only institutional but retail players, right? Not on the institutional side, obviously going through losing my seed phrase and the whole concept of the private key and like the seed phrase, like just as like a nerd myself, I was like, dude, this is so cool. But then I was also like, how many people are actually going to be like writing down seed phrases all the time? Like, you know, keep it in their shoebox. Like it's totally unscalable. And so the whole concept of, you know, utilizing like multi-party computation or multi-sig type of, you know, wallets was actually really neat. And I thought it was a really great way as an alternative to provide infrastructure solutions, you know, out in the marketplace. And so, you know, when I was at Curve, they got bought by PayPal. So I ended up going to MasterCard and running partnerships over there for a company called CipherTrace on the blockchain analytics side, which was fun. And then actually a lot of the folks from Curve decided that they wanted to get back in the game and create a second generation wallet provider and security platform. And so I teamed up with them and came back in November of 2022. So it's 2024 now. Yeah, so November of 22. And we launched a product that month. And we've been out in the markets for about a year and 8 months now. But essentially, you know, with the experience that we had at Curve, we also brought over some folks from Fireblocks as well to help us build this. But, you know, Fireblocks, Copper, a lot of these first generation institutional wallet providers, you know, the initial reason to build a lot of those companies was to mitigate the single point of failure of the private key, and also to provide liquidity to exchanges and provide a way and access for them to settle on and off exchanges, right? And so DeFi wasn't really a thing at the time. It's just started coming out, I think, in 2021 when DeFi summer hit, right? If I remember correctly. And you had some of the first kind of dApps coming out and smart contracts coming out. And so MetaMask was really the only game in town at that time, right? And so they came out with MetaMask Institutional. And at Curve, we were actually the first ones to use MMI at the time to really provide a way or a gateway for institutional clients to actually deploy assets on chain. So it was a pretty nascent and kind of new feature at that time. And so over time, obviously, as DeFi grew and as the space grew and innovation continued to happen across, you know, multiple protocols, when we were building Fordefi, we wanted to build something that was purposely built for DeFi specifically. So we didn't want to do the same old, same old. We saw a gap in the market where there was really no one solution that was built to interact with smart contracts and really take on the complexities of interacting with those contracts and the call data and things like that. A lot of time with retail wallets and even some institutional wallet extensions, you know, when you interact with DeFi, you don't always get full transactional clarity when you're interacting with those smart contracts. There's a lot of different calls that come in. There's a lot of data, raw data that comes in as well. And if you don't know how to contextualize that, you know, in the transaction or extension, it could really look really messy and really hard to understand. And so you're basically signing something, you have no idea what's going to happen. You're just kind of hoping and praying that it actually goes to where it's intended to be, or you're hoping that swap goes through, right? And then all of us done the thing where, you know, if you're transferring assets from one from wallet to another, you got to make sure the first four, middle four, and the last four of the address are the same, you know, so make sure that's the right one. So we wanted to build a solution that was a second generation solution that incorporated a lot of these DeFi and on-chain capabilities in-house. We built a full end-to-end solution that includes a full UI for like vault management, user management. We got a full policy engine that incorporates a lot of the smart contracts in there. We built our own extension as well so that we can interact on chain within all the dApps and all the smart contracts within those different ecosystems that we support, as well as built our own mobile app to do the signing and approving of transactions. And one of the main, I think, value propositions for Fordefi is because we're purposely built for on-chain activities. The extension that we built is the only cross-chain institutional extension, as far as I know, that's in the marketplace today. So we wanted to provide an experience that was consistent from a user experience standpoint, but also provided heightened security layers for on-chain transactions as well. So through our extension, it'll be the same experience whether you're on EVM, whether you're on Cosmos, whether you're on Solana, and you're interacting within those ecosystems. And when we support any of those chains, we're not just supporting the token standard. We want to support the whole ecosystem. So supporting the smart contracts, supporting the dApps, supporting the projects that are building on these ecosystems, so that our clients can go and deploy capital and confidence, utilizing our full platform as well. So we also have APIs behind everything. So people who have programmatic use cases like market makers and traders can go on and deploy capital programmatically. But going back to kind of those DeFi capabilities, through the extension, what we're able to do is contextualize a lot of that smart contract call data that we get from the smart contract and really bring it down to more of a human readable state on the extension, so that people that are interacting with these smart contracts and dApps understand the full context of that transaction. They know where it's coming from. They want to make sure they know what chain it's on. We're also doing things like verification and validation of the smart contracts and token contract addresses of the assets that are involved in the transaction as well. So we really wanted to heighten the security aspect of this thing because, as you guys know, historically, like going on chain, because it is new and it's nascent, it is dangerous. Like there are, it's the Wild West, at least, it was a year or two ago. And I still think a little bit it is today. But you want to add security layers so that people have confidence in transacting on chain. So I'll stop there to see if you guys have any questions.
Well, speaking of additional security, you guys recently just got a large amount of insurance, correct?
We did, yeah. So we got insurance policy that covers the assets that we're managing. We also got our SOC 2 Type 2, as well as various audits, cryptographic audits on our MPC layer and some of our infrastructure layer as well. So yeah, security was always obviously top of mind as far as this goes, especially in the institutional side, right? So you got to have multiple layers of security, not only on the infrastructure side, but also the application layer. And that's why we wanted to mitigate really any single point of failure on the platform if possible. So, we have different roles. It's a roles-based platform. And we also have a policy engine that's completely separate in a separate enclave than our MPC protocol that runs the cryptographic algorithm that signs the transactions. So security is definitely high in mind, and we want to provide that security throughout the whole workflow and throughout the platform.
I'm curious as well, reporting. So from my perspective, I've been working in institutional crypto for about 3 years now. And a lot of institutions have said, I don't necessarily know if I want to experiment with DeFi because the custodian that I use when I interact with their DeFi wallet, I get bland reporting, my auditors freak out, my fund admin freaks out. So how do you guys actually keep all that messiness to make logical sense for a fund admin, for anybody that's actually looking at the reporting?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and it's a big deal, right? So people who are not familiar with the institutional side, like even back in wealth management days, like the brokerage houses, like it's almost like over-reporting. They report on everything. They got reports for things, and then you got your report, and then you got like 50 pages of disclosures after the report, right? So I'm sure one day when crypto grows up, it'll be the same. But but for us, when being able to contextualize the transactional data from those smart contracts and bring it down to that kind of human readable state allows us to provide kind of transactional reporting, or at least the transactional details that we keep. And so our clients can then export those out for auditors or for their own internal compliance teams or operations teams, so they can do some of that tracking and reporting as well. We do integrate with a number of accounting type solutions out there as well. So like Integral and some of these other guys, so that firms can then, export that out and they can do their accounting based on that data. But because we're getting a lot of that detailed data from that smart contracts, enhancing and contextualizing that, we keep all those details as well within the platforms. They have a full transactional history with all the details of that. And we've also provided an audit trail as well. So, who created the transaction with timestamps, who approved it, when it gets broadcast to the network in mind. And we have that all available for our clients as well. So reporting is a big piece of it for clients. And we're always looking to enhance our reporting, and I'm sure it'll continue to get robust as we continue to build out the product.
I'm kind of curious. So the Bitcoin ETF was obviously approved earlier this year. The Ethereum ETF, there's a lot of speculation that'll happen relatively soon. And maybe even Solana ETF, another one of these kind of going forward. So from your own traditional finance background, and even looking in the institutional finance space, how does that play going into kind of the future of what Fordefi is building in regards to interacting with other types of DeFi?
Yeah, that's a great question. Kind of coming from that space and kind of understanding, at least at a high level, how ETFs work. And I know these are a little bit different than your traditional kind of ETFs in the equity space, or, for fixed income, things like that. For me, I think personally, and just my own opinion, like it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, the ETFs, I think more the Ethereum than the Bitcoin. I think it's great from a visibility standpoint and getting, folks kind of getting some visibility into Bitcoin and Ethereum and just the space in general. And it's kind of like dip your toes into the water kind of thing, right? For people to know that the ETFs are out there and just kind of get them to further explore. I think it's also provides a way for institutions that are a little bit more risk averse, right? Because let's face it, like most of the institutions that got into crypto in the first place, like I would say Fidelity was probably one of the earliest ones that I knew, and I think they were kind of ahead of the curve as far as bigger institutions. But it's like they're all kind of sitting around the pool, and Fidelity jumped in, and then like BNY Mellon jumped in, and then they're all like, "Yeah, I don't know, it's kind of cold." Like, we'll wait a couple of years and see how it develops. But I think the ETFs provide a way for them to participate and get involved without actually crossing into a gray area as far as, at least until the regulatory landscape gets a little bit more firmed up, I should say, right? So I think as things continue to, innovate, and as we look at the space from an institutional standpoint, I think there'll be opportunities to continue to work with these types of institutions to provide infrastructure within that realm. We're looking, so at Fordefi, we've got two products. We've got our core wallet product, which is our kind of our treasury management and trading product, but we also have a wallet as a service product as well, which essentially takes our wallet infrastructure APIs and we wrap an SDK around it. And it allows companies and entities to basically build on top of it and build their own user workflows, user experiences. And it's across a broad array of different use cases, right? So it could be not just, in the financial services space where they could build on top of that to provide services they want to offer to their users, like for neobanks and banks like that, or provide infrastructure services, maybe one day down the road for ETFs or instruments like that from a regulatory perspective. But also for, maybe Web2 companies that are looking to provide some kind of loyalty programs or things like that. So it really opens up a whole new world. And we want to be a company that helps grow the adoption of crypto into the mainstream and provide infrastructure solutions so that we can get more and more people into the space, introduce them to the space, introduce them to the benefits and the value that the space provides, and that the technology provides as well. So that's really, I think, where we want to be headed over the next 5 to 10 years.
That's a great answer. So as you're looking to be where you're heading in the next 5 to 10 years, today, though, who would you say are your ideal customers that are using the Fordefi wallet, and those that are listening now would say, I've been using a Coinbase or a BitGo custodian for a while now. I've been thinking about experimenting with DeFi. How can I add you into basically our suite of custodians? Why self-custody? Hopefully that question kind of makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Great leading question. I appreciate it. Our main customers right now is our sweet spot is like funds, market makers, traders, and trading firms that are involved in DeFi or have want to get involved in DeFi and deploy on chain and do it in a very secure manner. So we also obviously want to go after protocols that want to need like treasury management needs, DAOs that have treasury management needs, And the thing about Fordefi is it's not just EVM. We're definitely, we want to be able to provide our clients the ability to go to any chain that they want and deploy capital to take advantage of opportunities on those chains. So today we support 25 plus EVMs. We also support 15 plus Cosmos app chains. We also support Solana and Bitcoin. And soon we'll be, by the time this thing comes out, we'll have SUI out, right? And so we're always looking to new protocols to support. And as I mentioned before, it's just not that token support, but it's full ecosystem support. So they can go on and they can deploy within any of the projects or dApps within those ecosystems. And so for funds that are maybe setting up new funds, or they've been around a while and they have either a custodian that they're holding, the bulk of their Bitcoin or the bulk of their Ethereum with, and maybe just staking that. And if they have like a liquid strategy that they want to deploy on chain, Fordefi is going to give them the best in class solutions to be able to do that securely and with the best user experience on chain from an institutional standpoint that's out there, right? Most of the other custodians and the other providers are pretty reliant on third-party providers for their on-chain activity, where ours is a all in-house, end-to-end shop where we provide a lot of those DeFi capabilities in-house and give them a better way to do that.
Wow, just what a wonderful conversation. Such a incredible suite of products you guys are offering. And so how do people get in touch with you, Steve? Like, what's the best way for them to reach out to you personally, maybe to learn more about Fordefi? How can we help get that message out there?
Yeah, appreciate that. So I'm on Telegram, just like everybody else in the space. So my Telegram handle is easy. It's just Steve Fordefi. You can also reach me at steve@fordefi.com. I'm on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, happy to chat. I'm always at, the conferences. I've seen Jordan at conferences on the conference circuit as well out there. So definitely, if you see me, definitely come and chat. Would love to chat with anybody that's interested in talking about Fordefi or just the space in general. But those are the usual channels that I'm on today.
We'll be sure to link all of those when we release the episode. But everybody who's tuned in today, whether watching or listening, thank you so much for taking the time. We'll see you on the next episode of Decentral Lounge. Take care.
Thanks, guys.